My name's Steve. I'm with the Success and Education team, and this is just a little webinar to kind of show off sort of what Qwilr has recently released, what we literally released within this last week here, and kind of some of the updates, and talk a little bit about some of the updates that are coming to Qwilr. Now, this is, of course, being recorded and will be accessible afterward. You are welcome to post your questions in chat or in Q&A. I will occasionally have to bounce between accounts because some of the stuff is live, some of the stuff is still in a test account situation. But for now, let me share my screen and get started. I'd love just a little confirmation, whether it's in the chat or in that everyone can see my screen here. Yep. Great. Okay. So first thing is kind of the couple bigger things that we released recently. Some of you may already know about this. We definitely have communicated about it, but just to make sure that people have seen it, just to make sure people have seen it, we do have the agreements functionality on accept. People are pretty familiar, obviously, with our accept block at this point, right? Yeah, if someone clicks accept, this opens up. You can add custom questions and stuff into here and get e-signatures. And if you're connected to Stripe, have them pay in Stripe. But more importantly, now for those that need a little bit more kind of black and white, straightforward documentation, we added the agreement block. The agreement aspect of the accept block is basically a pretty a straightforward adjustment to it. I'm going to close this just so that you can see how it goes. Instead of when people click on accept, it just expands. It goes instead to a block like this. And so this will be the same for the customers. And this is where you can edit in black and white content, here. You can have your information. I'm going to clear this just so that you can see me adding it. So you can make in a quote summary there, choosing what they pulled in from the quote earlier, put your tables in, but just kind of have a more contract looking version of it. And then they still have the full functionality of filling out this information, signing it and agreeing to it there. It just kind of puts it as a step in there. There's a few things you can do with the quote block as far as style, or with the like kind of quote import as far as style, if you need to make it like much tighter. And the main note here is that you'll notice that it shows that they have the standard product and the setup fee. It shows that. That is because that little block only imports what they've selected. It doesn't show the options. They still have full access to this proposal and everything. This just gives them a little bit more black and white. More importantly, they can download this, and it's a very printable thing because it is black and white. And you, as a customer, can save this block. So you can customize this. You can save it and like connect it up later, and it'll be in these little thumbnails. Let me remove this and show you those little thumbnails again. So it'll be in like these here so that you can swap out different terms. It's nice because it really front and centers on different like terms and everything like that. So it's a nice step. It definitely provides options for printability. Assuming that they accept a proposal with this, they'll still get, you know, the audit trail PDF that they currently get emailed when a proposal is accepted. The owner still gets that. It's just an add-on to provide sort of like buyer confidence, and to make sure that if they were to click agree, they would have to scroll through all of that content, and then your terms and service can be tucked in there. So that is, I would say that's the big thing, right? That we've had some other stuff in relation to analytics, but I feel like a lot of people at this point have become more familiar with the updated analytics, where we have a little bit more information on what a person does on a page. This is just a brief example, but it'll show them starting the timeline of what blocks that they go to. It'll give you kind of session information. Nothing too complicated, but it also kind of gives you a better idea. Ignore any kind of rolling large vehicles that are happening. It also kind of gives you a better idea. Let's see, do I have one with, there we go. There's one with lots and lots of views. So you can see here in the viewers card, we have a great example here of session started, all the blocks that have been browsed through. User probably went to a different tab, came back, and then finally left the page. And we can see sort of like the timeline there. And that gives us more information to infer, depending on page settings, depending on share page settings. For those of you that are on enterprise accounts, you can do things like demand that when they open a page, they put in either their name or email. Doesn't make them fill password or double check. This is just sort of, they open the page and it asks them name or email, and that information can get assigned to these little cards right here, to this little guy right here, and so that you can see it. But for regular business accounts that is available, I don't know if it's super useful unless you're sending something to like a lot of people. And then you can see some stuff, right? Like if we needed to know where all these were coming from very specifically, we would enable that. Can you please elaborate on packages that were evident above the agreement options? We are not familiar with this and could definitely use it. I will circle back to that question, Tina. I am 100%, I'm not 100% sure what that is, what you're talking about, but I will circle back to it when I kind of get through the sort of new stuff, and then I'll come back to that. We're going to go back into this, and we're going to show off this guy right here. So we've updated sort of our library. It used to live like right up here and no one knew where it was. It was a little icon constantly. Most people would get to it by simply hitting the plus sign, right? And then they go to images, and then it would pop out. But now it can just pop out wherever you like. And so when it pops out, especially when you kind of started, and a lot of people would see it initially because we made it kind of default open for a little bit. But when it pops out, it has your blocks and your images, and you'll notice, or it has blocks, images, and videos. You'll notice I'm on the Explore tab. This is all the sort of default Qwilr kit stuff, right? Like this is the stuff that we've pre-made. You can go to your library right here and go through your images and go through your saved blocks and all that stuff, just the same as it always was. But we've added some more functionality here so that there's more of these like pre-designed blocks to kind of help you out with design ideals that you can kind of scroll on through and everything like that. And of course, our same Unsplash image library to give you a lot of good stock images. And you can still, of course, upload and go to your full library here. And then this little thing, this is a little bit of a teaser, but we do have some kind of stock videos that you can just drop in. I'm just going to drop this one in here. Drop this one in here. Didn't wait for the blue line. We do have some stock videos that you can upload. We are going to be in the future testing the idea of uploading certain length, certain size video files. Right now, that functionality is not there. It is in discussion, but we wanted to create the library asset for it. So you will see communications about that probably later in the year, early next year, assuming we can make it work. But for now, you can put in some stock video if you need something that just looks a little bit more like kind of almost commercial copy. And again, your full library, the things that you've saved, the images that you've uploaded, the blocks that you've saved, is all right here on this tab as well. And then just to close it is there, and you can, if you're on a Windows machine, do Control/ to open and close it, or Command/ if you're on a Mac. Let me close that out. So that's a new thing that we've released. I'm going to discuss another functionality and another whole aspect, but I'm actually going to jump ahead to some stuff that's coming soon, just because of the account that I'm currently in. Now, you may have noticed when my mouse has hovered over things, you may have noticed that that there's this little icon that sort of pops up to the left of all of these bullet points. This little thing that you don't have currently on your Qwilr pages. We we call this the anchor drag, and it just lets you rearrange stuff on your Qwilr page. This is something that we've all wanted for a long time, right? Now, right now, this is in a test version, like this is an internal beta, so I don't like it may glitch out on us while we're talking, but it will be there. You can kind of see that it kind of keeps a ghost image of an image when I'm dragging it. Let's go down a little bit further. Let's go down to, I'd argue, one of the most common requests for this guy right here. So right now I can be like, I can drag my accordion buttons around up above each other. And then importantly, let's say I wanted to drag this up here out of the block. Won't let me. Might be a little bit too, there we go. I can drag across blocks. Now you'll see that it lost its formatting data, right? Because I moved it into a new block and everything. But it did let me drag the comment and content, and I can always go back and reformat it to look like these guys down here. But it will let you drag content across blocks. This is true of any bullet pointing content. This is true of any text content. This is there. Technically, I think this is a 2-column. Technically, a 2-column will do it. And then things inside of a 2-column will do it. It can get a little, this is where I was talking about it being testing. It can get a little like questionable. This is a tougher one because of course this image is there, but let me squeeze it down. Let me squeeze it down. Let's clear some of this content just for showing off purposes. Okay, there we go. So yeah, if I wanted to, I can move these 2 columns around. So these anchor drags have been something. This is all part of our editor updates. This, along with this, this drag option, is about smoothing our editor, leveling it up to something that's a little bit more easy to interface with, easy to customize. Now, we have a couple more things that are kind of coming toward the end of this year. Or before the end of this year. I can't guarantee months. I would say October, November. Some of it might be pushed to December, but it's going to come out in pieces, right? So first, these drag anchors. Another thing that's going to come out is what we're kind of calling style override right now, but is a real simple concept. It's something that isn't even out yet on this dog food account, but it will be shortly, which is a very kind of classic Qwilr request, which is where I have text in one color and I would love that text in the other color, but I would love just the highlighted portion in the other color, not everything that is heading to text. That is going to be released. That is going to be released so that you can just highlight a bit of text, change its color, and not have it affect all the rest of the text of that type in your block. There are some other things that we're playing with that I'm not supposed to get too specific with that will appear here. And I will, I probably, we're at the prototype phase of them, but I'm not sure how much is going to release, but it's going to be another tab here that will help you with sort of the raw design of a block. So if you have just like a plain text block and you're trying to get content that sort of looks a certain way, maybe a couple different, maybe 3 or 4 pictures side by side, maybe like content that looks very much like this. Right now, when you add blocks, they're whole blocks, right? And they've already got all these assets and everything on them, very kind of classically. This is going to be something that will help you do certain things in Qwilr, many things that haven't been able to be done, like 3 columns or 4 columns of content and other things. That is the one that I have the least amount of information on. Please add undo, redo functions. Certainly a conversation that we have repeatedly repeatedly, Kristen, of how can we get at least something, a pop menu that's sort of like this that maybe goes back a certain number of steps. Um, uh, okay, let's talk about some of the other features. Well, I'm stopping sharing my screen here for a moment while I switch over accounts to share off this. I am actually going to kick off a poll. This poll, which should appear for all of you, is which internal comm software do you use? This is like Slack. This is Teams. This is my anything else. If you use something else, put it here in the chat. But mostly, we're curious about percentages of Slack versus Microsoft Teams here, because what I'm going to show you is related to Slack, and it's something that our team very much wants to consider for Teams. Mattermost. I don't know if I've heard of that one. Of course, Google Chat. Of course, I should have put Google Chat on the list. There's plenty of people that use Google Chat. Okay, I'm switching accounts over to a different account so that I can do this next thing. Close out of that. We're going to make sure that that information. Okay. Okay, I'm going to end the poll here. Thank you so much for responding to the poll. It gives me a great idea of what people are using, a great little sample size. It looks like about twice as many people, a little more than twice maybe, are using Microsoft Teams than Slack. This applies to Slack, but this journey is something that our product managers are looking for the information to confirm that we should release, that we should implement this for Teams as well. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that in or fit that in 2024, but I'm pretty confident that if we can do it, what I'm about to show you will also be available on Teams once we can get it under our belt. So I'm going to end the poll here. We'll share the results, and there you go. All right, let me share my screen again. I assume you all can see the integrations page again. This is the integration page in everybody's settings. This is a different test account of mine, but this feature is live on your accounts. And this is an update to our Slack integration. So if you're already integrated into Slack, you'll see that there'll be like a Slack icon down here that'll say old next to it. And it will have been working. We had Slack notifications in the past and everything. But you'll want to disable that one and go over to Slack V2 communication. Now, we've got our help doc here that will kind of be able to be referenced, and it has its own nice little video that'll kind of walk you through sort of all of this itself. But I am just going to turn the integration on and kind of show you what you can do with it. So we're going to enable Slack V2. It's going to likely, if you're already logged into Slack, it'll just bring you up this menu. It'll tell you kind of what permissions and communications will have, you know, the old allow it menu. And then it should automatically integrate. I don't need to save this in one password. We can see now that it's integrated, and then it tells you manage your Slack automations in your automation library. Now, for those of you that don't use HubSpot, this hasn't really been a thing yet. And Tina was saying this Google Chat. Good feedback there, Carolina, on outside of the US Google Chat. I don't know if we've talked about Google Chat a lot internally at the team, and more than just mentioning it, but it's a good instinct to also look to that. But back to Slack. So automations is something that's up here in your library, and it only turns on if you have something that would trigger it. So right now, people who are using HubSpots have the automations beta, and now Slack users have the automations beta. And so what automations does, And so you can ignore these. These are all HubSpot automations on this test account. What automations does is it allows you to create sort of like very direct systems in a more customized way. So you'll have this, if you just have Slack, it's just going to show Slack. If you have both Slack and HubSpot, it'll show both. Let's do Slack. And so now with Slack loading, it will have the drop down, and it's more your classic sort of like, if this happens, then do this, like trigger action stuff. Zapier is structured like this, make.com, lots of automation software is struck like this. So you'll be able to be like, hey, if a page is accepted by the client, or maybe it's partially accepted if it's multiple signatures, but let's just do accepted by the client, then I want to either send a message to a channel or multiple channels, or send a message to page owner. Now, page owner is pretty straightforward. That's whoever made the page, their email address. If that's what they use to log into Slack as well, it will be able to DM them in Slack. That functionality is not new, but the idea of multiple channels and even private channels is a bit more new. So this is my, the Qwilr internal thing. So it's a big old list and everything. So I'm not gonna dive too deep into this. You all know what chat line or comm software channels are, but you'll notice that there's some lock icons in here. Team Bolt private, right? There's some lock icons test integration. Those are private chats because this will go to either public channels or private channels. And then, just like someone would get an email, they'll instead get I think I'm just going to pick anyone right here, and then they'll get a message that looks like this, and I'm going to zoom in on it. So like, let's say this page was accepted on this channel. It's meant to post to the channel. It'll have a link to the page that's been accepted. You'll see the accept details of the page and values. You'll be able to open the collaborator link of the page, which won't affect its analytics and is externally available to non-Qwilr users, which is great for, somebody likes to see essentially that. You'll have the download PDF, and you'll have the link right here to go right to the page analytics if you want to get feedback on that. We also use, can this be linked to that? Great question, Lindsay. Automations is going to come to Zoho and Pipedrive. That's a 2025 thing. We're in the beta of it right now, right? You saw for HubSpot, you see it now currently for Slack. That is the 100% intention. So we will bring that to Zoho and Pipedrive in 2025. Salesforce is a whole independent conversation. So for those of you that use Salesforce, I don't have hard numbers or things that I can speak to on that. It's mostly, but with our Zoho, Pipedrive, and HubSpot integrations, they are much closer to each other. So you will be able to look forward to that. And I can show off some of that integration, some of that automation a little bit later. But yeah, you'll get a message like this in your Slack information. This is highly valuable to company teams because it can push it to channels that people want. As I said, it can do private channel stuff. It can do those private channels. The only difference is with private channels, you actually have to go to the private channel and you have to install can we send messages? You have to install the app or enable the app on the private channel, right? So adding the Qwilr integration is there. You just add this. We have the instructions here for adding applications and private channels. You've probably all done this before. You cannot connect. Technically, you cannot connect very functionally multiple Qwilr accounts to one Slack workspace, or multiple workspaces to one, multiple Slacks to one Qwilr account. If you have different workspaces, it will work. That's what I'm doing right now with my test account. It will function. It may have some cross notification challenges, right? And so it's sort of a test at your own risk. But as long as the email addresses work, the like basic channel functionality will fully function. Okay, so the other nice thing about this, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. The other nice thing about this is, of course, you can, so like, let's say I wanted multiple channels, I could do multiple channels, right? I could just blow people up when I have success in sales. And you can, of course, send a message directly to the owner on top of it. You can do both at the same time if you want to, which is nice. Right now, those all come through email. I just wanted to show off there are other things. There are other things that I think are valuable on this list, right? You can get a notification if a page is viewed, if a page that's expired viewed, a page that was declined is viewed, right? You can note if a page has been archived, if someone on your team archives a page. If a person interacts with the pricing on a page, or if they started the accept process, but didn't go, like didn't finish accepting the proposal, right? So it gives you information, the same sort of notification upgrades that we've had to broader notifications, just all through a Slack channel, which is really nice. To finish making one of these function, you just title it test Slack automation, and then you can put the description in, description here, and then you can, of course, save it. But the last step is that you need to assign it to templates, because these, you can assign it to all pages. So you can just do the whole account, be like, any page created on this account, I want Slack. But what you really want to do usually is assign it to particular types of templates on your account. So any pages created from that will trigger it. So I'm just going to do all pages though. Be like, great. And then in theory, complete this form to continue. Slack channel. There we go. Great. And it works there. And I can turn it on and off. So if I don't want it on for a while, I can turn it off. And you can see the little Slack title there. I'm going to delete it. So don't want it. This is not our main. This is not our main account. This is one of my many test accounts. I'm actually going to go back to integrations, and I'm going to disable it before I forget. So that is the Slack functionality. On that, again, we have this nice handy dandy little help doc to help walk you all through it, and everything. And we literally right after this meeting, I'm going to ping them and be like, okay, here was the results of this poll. I have another one of these toward the end of my day that will cover APAC and a lot of West Coast users. And we will have the poll, and I'm guessing it will show up the same. So look forward to seeing all of this kind of stuff and automations in general sort of expanded upon in the future, because it allows us to really upgrade our integrations. As said to that user, yeah, of course, recordings are available for this. Those that show up, you'll all get an email from us with a recording of this. I am going to go back to stop sharing my screen so I can flip back over to the other account, and then I'll answer that previous question and any questions about anything you've seen here or things that might be coming up here with Qwilr.